Did you ever have a creamsicle as a kid? Well, today we're making that into a mead. To start with, we're going to make a mead with oranges in it. But not any oranges, special oranges. But first, let's weigh out our honey.
So this is Brian's recipe because I don't particularly like creamsicle candies.
Love creamsicles. You don't really like oranges.
I like oranges. I like orange juice, and I like Cointreau.
That's true. I forgot about that.
That's about it.
For honey, we are using Kirkland Wildflower honey. Now, if we had orange blossom handy, I'd be using that because orange and orange blossom, I mean, it just goes. But I have to say that wildflower honey in Florida is probably pretty much orange blossom anyway. So it's like the same. Any beekeepers out there, please don't get angry with me, but you know what I mean. It's just a joke, okay? It's a joke.
Okay.
Wildflower honey, 2.5 pounds. Why 2.5 pounds instead of the normal 3? Well, here's why. A creamsicle should be a sweet, easy to drink thing. So by cutting the alcohol back a little bit more, we are making this a little bit easier to drink. And, you know, not everything has to be 13, 15% alcohol. We'll make it a little bit less. It's not going to be that much less though. All right, so there's our 2 pounds, 8 ounces of honey, also known as 2.5 pounds. To that, I'm going to add in some orange peels. And these aren't just any orange peels. These are Mandarin orange peels, also known as halos. I love these things, and I think they add just a freshness and a sweet orange flavor that would be difficult to get otherwise. Now, yes, the peels come off of these incredibly easy, but if you do that, you're getting all of the pith as well. What I'm trying to do is just get the peel. This is probably going to take me a few minutes, so if you want to turn away or, you know, go use the bathroom or something.
That's intermission. Mead making intermission.
For those curious, that was 4 oranges worth of just the peel. No pith, please. We don't want any visits from the pith police. So, the reason why we use the peels.
We use the peels rather than the juice or the orange itself because we want the flavor without the added acidity. So we find that the essential oils that are inherent in the peels are actually stronger in orange flavor than the orange itself.
If you're curious about that, we made limoncello, which is just really an extract of lemon into like vodka, and you use lemon peels to make that. Worked beautifully well. We've been doing it a lot ever since. And normally 1 orange is plenty to add flavor.
But this is a creamsicle.
And I also believe that anything worth doing is worth overdoing. So 4 of them going in. Plus there's going to be some other flavors in this eventually. So I wanted to make sure that the orange could really stand up and still come through. I'm now adding 104 ounces of water. Why am I telling you 104 ounces? Because we use 2.5 pounds of honey, which is 8 ounces shy of a quart. So we use 3 quarts plus 8 ounces of water. Because a lot of people ask us how much water. We say water to a gallon, and that's good enough. But if you need more, it's 104. That rhymed. I'm adding it all in this time because there's just no advantage this time to not doing it that way. But I don't have a spoon.
No!
Grab a spoon, paddle, whatever, and mix this up. You want to make sure all that honey is dissolved. If it's not, it'll still ferment and be just fine. But your original gravity reading will be off, which means that all of your other calculations will just be wrong, and it's not as useful of information. So I like to just make sure it's dissolved and move forward.
Being that we're using a glass fermentation vessel means we can see what's happening at the very bottom. That's where we want to focus to make sure that all our honey has been dissolved.
Now, I put the orange peels in here early on purpose. 2 reasons. 1, they add extra agitation as I'm mixing it up. And 2, beating them up a little bit with the paddle actually releases some of their natural oils. Not that you have to do it, but hey, you know, it sounds good, right? In the beginning phase of creation of fermentation, it is totally okay to be a little sloppy and get some air into this, okay? All colonies need a little bit of air starting out. If you've seen any of our videos, we talk about this often. If you don't aerate properly, it'll probably still work. But that's where that sulfur smell comes from. And we're also learning that that's where some of the yeasty flavors may be coming from. Apparently, there's someone at our front door.
All right, before you get too ahead of yourself, do you want to go ahead and add that other liquidous addition?
I was trying to mix this thoroughly, but we totally can do that, yes. All right, the other liquidous addition that she was being so obtuse about was actually our yeast nutrient. We're using Fermade O, which is an organic yeast nutrient. It's a nitrogen source for the yeast. And if you think you don't need it, use it anyway. We've found that it helps 99.9% of the time. It's going to make things work a little bit better than you think they would, and maybe not need quite as much aging. That's what we've found.
Brian likes to refer to it as its insurance program. That means that if you don't need it, it's there just in case you do need it. And if you do need it, it's there.
By the way, that was 2.5 grams of powdered Fermade O in about an ounce of water. So not much. And as she said, it's just a little bit of extra insurance. If the yeast don't need it, they'll probably consume it anyway. It doesn't leave any odd flavors or taste. That's why we like the organic version. But I'll tell you right now, honey needs it. I'm not seeing any honey remnants. An easy way to tell is stop, let it sit for a minute. And then look at the bottom.
I don't see anything.
I don't see anything. Well, I see lots of things. I just don't see any honey remnants. Okay, so now is when we take our original gravity reading, which this gives us like our start, our beginning point, if you will. And it should be somewhere around 1.085 to 1.090 because of the amount of honey that we used. If you don't understand where I got that number from, honey adds 0.035 specific gravity per pound in a gallon of must. So we have roughly a gallon of must here, maybe 1 ounce over. And we used 2.5 pounds, which would come to about 0.087. And because we are now above the density of water, because we've added denser stuff than water, it's 1.0875. So let's see how approximately close we've become. What do you know? 1.086. Oh wait, is it? It's actually 1.088. So that puts us squarely where I expected this to be. Let me go over that a little bit more in just a second. I'm gonna dump this sample back in. Why? Because everything was sanitized in
The red bucket station!
What I mean by that is it's a big bucket right over there with sanitizer fluid in it, made from star sand. We use that to sanitize everything. Our hands, the gear, the fermenter, I even dipped the oranges in it, okay? What it does is it just gets rid of all the stuff that you don't want growing. Wild yeast, bacteria, things like that, things that could ruin your brew, okay? You want this to have as good of a start as possible. People who do not sanitize these things, their testing equipment, shouldn't dump it back in. I don't see why you wouldn't sanitize it, but some people don't. Some people drink the sample. To me, that's 150 milliliters of a 1 gallon. That would be Rascal, the youngest, who's being a little bit of a pain today. Hey, can you get down? He wants in the window.
Buddy.
All right, we're gonna let him in the window. Be right back. Now the cat's out of the way. Hands have been washed and re-sanitized. Back to brewing. Okay, so what I was talking about with the gravity, when you have your starting gravity set that way, what I mean is we used 2.5 pounds of honey. Honey adds 0.035 per pound, so that comes out to 1.0875. If you're confused on that, we do have videos explaining all of that in specific. So we're gonna move forward here. But using the calculator the teacher said I would never have handy, I can give us a rough idea of our potential of alcohol from that. So 1.088, assuming this is going to go dry, because it probably will, minus 1.000. Let's just call that dry. It might go a little bit lower than that, but we'll go with that for today. That gives us 0.088 times 135, gives me 11.88%, call it 12%. That's close enough for home brew. And that's a 12% alcohol mead. Sounds pretty good to me so far. So,
Yeast.
Yeah. While honey does have wild yeast in it most times, it tends to be a little bit unpredictable. So we tend to use packet yeast, okay? You can use bread yeast if you really want to, especially in this particular fermentation. It's not going to go high enough that bread yeast would be a problem, and it'll probably work out quite nicely. The difference is bread yeast doesn't flocculate as nice. So you'll see like stringy things that are difficult to get rid of. It'll always be a little bit cloudier. It won't come out looking quite as nice.
Flocculation is when all the particles settle to the bottom and create what is known as a yeast cake. And if it compacts nicely, then that is a quality level of flocculation.
Because it's really easy to get the most product out without hitting that layer, without it kind of going and getting all into your stuff. All right, so what yeast are we using today?
We're using 71B.
And why are we using 71B?
Because we like it.
And we have lots of it. Actually, it's because it's a great performer in our environment. And that's one thing that not a lot of people talk about is yeast perform in different environments very well. We happen to keep our house between 75 and 78 degrees Fahrenheit 24/7 year round. So we know this yeast in our environment works very well for us. I'm using a whole packet because, well, what am I doing?
Back your packet.
I use a whole packet because you have to have a viable amount of genetic material to build a colony. So as you cut that down, yeah, it's made for 5 gallons, but as you cut that in half, and then cut that in half, and then cut that in half to get to the one little bit that you use for 1 gallon so you can make 5 gallons from it, you're limiting the amount of genetic availability of material you have, which means some of that yeast is dead in there, okay? So what if you divided it down to 20% and all the yeast were mostly dead? And then the rest of them were all brothers and sisters. Well, guess what? You're going to have some funky yeast. I'm exaggerating, but the point is still there, that you need enough randomized genetic material in order to build a super strong colony. And that's what we want. So that's why I like to use a whole packet. It guarantees that I'm going to have as much as I need to make this work. I have a lump in the middle. I don't like to have it lumped in the middle of the yeast. I don't like to mix it in much because it sticks to everything. It just gets everywhere. It makes a mess. But I don't like to have a pile of it in the middle. It'll get to it eventually, I'm sure, but it's just a pet peeve of mine. But now we're going to put the lid back on. Well, put it on for the first time on this one, I suppose. And someone's going to ask, what about all that headroom? Well, headroom in primary fermentation actually doesn't matter. If anything, it's a nice insurance because this has to foam up all the way through all this, through the airlock, and then come out before it makes a mess. Trust me, it happens even with this much headroom. So having a little extra headspace in primary is probably not a bad thing.
But I know what you're thinking. But guys, you said you were going to make a creamsicle, and you just basically put oranges and honey and water together. So where's the other flavors? Well, that comes later.
So see you in about 2 seconds. Because it's been going for about 2 weeks. Yes, we loosened the lid first. They don't come off quite that easy. So we want to do our first check on it because it looked like there was not a lot of activity left. And the first thing I want to do is olfactory and optical inspection, which means smell it and look at it. And it looked like there was like some little like dust kind of things on the orange peels. I think that's just literally like lees that settled on them because looking at the top, there's nothing untoward, nothing that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, we have seen that before, particularly in pieces that are floating where the lees will make like little mini release colonies on those particles.
It's starting to clear already, which tells me this might actually be done or very close to it. Try to avoid sucking up the orange peels. Okay, well, let's just say the yeast were very happy with this one. 0.992. That's one of the lowest gravity readings we've had, like ever.
All right, so I have a category there for you.
I see it. She made up these new things and I already screwed it up.
Yeah, it's okay.
0.992, and that is 614.23. Okay, just preliminary. Let's get our, no, this has to go back in. I'm gonna dump it in, pour it in carefully, and then we will do the calculation. Everything here has been sanitized, so I can do this. And I'm doing it very carefully so I don't disturb much, but we're not racking today. I just don't want to agitate and cause oxygenation. That's the only thing I'm concerned with. And get it all in there. There we go. We started at 1.088. We ended at 0.992. That means we used up 0.096 specific gravity, or 96 points, as I say sometimes, times 135 gives me 12.96. I'm calling that 13%. Okay, so we're sitting at 13%. Now you might think, hey, how come you're not racking it today? Well, because I just disturbed it all. That's not really why, though. It's because we like to do 2 readings. We want 2 readings that are the same over a period of about a week, just to be 100% double sure it's done. Do I really think it's going to move at 0.992? No, I really don't think it's going anywhere, but we tell everyone to do it, so we're following our own advice and setting an example.
Now, at this point, do you want me to sanitize some tongs and remove those solid pieces?
That's probably not a bad idea. The pieces of peel that are in there have given their all. They're not going to do much anymore, so we can't actually remove those right now. Just if you leave them in too long and you don't do anything about it and there's no actual CO2 formation, they could could get moldy. Do we say you have to do that all the time? No, I don't think so. But these are floating just a little bit, sticking out of the liquid. So yeah, let's just remove them. We're going to sanitize some tongs and take care of that. Now, is that a risk of oxygenation? Yeah, a little bit. Is the risk of oxygenation worse than the risk of mold? That's the conundrum that you have to decide for yourself. In this case, I am okay with it because I know I can be very careful in the way I do it. We have a bowl. The bowl has not been sanitized. The tongs, however, have been sanitized. Why was the bowl not sanitized? Because it just doesn't matter. Because I'm just taking the things out and sticking them in there.
Remember, you're being delicate.
I am. This is delicate. These are some long peels. We'll probably speed this part up. It's not exactly the most exciting television. Let's watch Brian remove orange peels from a mead. It's my announcer voice. Is there any more?
I think the rest sunk and they can just stay in there.
If they sunk, well, they're stuck in there because I'm not going in after them. That's the idea. If they're at the bottom, they're not hurting anything. They will not mold because mold needs oxygen. So that's why when fermentation like this is done, if you want to remove them, it's probably not a bad idea. So we want to crank this sucker down. What? There we go. And stick the label back on. I took my notes.
Did you take the notes about removing the peels?
No. I think it's rather obvious I removed the peels. All right, fine. 6, 14, 23, remove peels. In the past, we have done a rough rack, and I am dubious about the safety of the rough rack because that can oxygenate pretty badly. We've never actually had it do it, but enough people express concern that we don't do that anymore. So instead we do this way, which is to just take the stuff that's floating that might cause a problem out if needed. It's not even a necessary step, but you know, hey, like I said, you take your own risks in life. It's up to you to decide. After all, it is your mead. If somebody tells you that you're wrong, don't give them any. So what are we gonna do with this now?
We're gonna let it sit.
See you in about 2 seconds.
So starting this video today, I told Brian he had to mark down the date because he tends to forget that. And so that led to searching for his pen. So we have remedied the search for his pen. And how did we do that, Brian?
I found my pen and I took a piece of masking tape and I put a flag on it so that now I know that is my pen. I even wrote Bri's pen on it.
Yep.
What?
That's where we're at now.
That way I know it's my pen.
So today,
all the other pens suck. This one's good.
Today, we're going to be taking our second check to confirm where we're at as far as the fermentation process goes.
It's been a week. Last time we looked at it, it was 0.992. I'm expecting roughly the same. We did remove a bunch of the orange peels, and as you can see, it is clearing really, really nicely.
We have found in our experience with fermentation that clearing actually is a sign that fermentation is done. It is
or nearing completion.
It is not the end all to end all.
It's a sign.
Take a reading.
Signs are to be
interpreted. If you have any questions, take a reading. Do you want to know if it's working? Take a reading. Do you want to know if it's stalled? Take a reading. Yeah,
as we've said before, 9 out of 10 questions that we get on our channel are answered by that simple thing. Did you take a reading? I know, I'm trying.
All right, now the reason why I whispered be careful is because...
She didn't want you to hear it. That's why you whispered it.
It's because we intend on racking this based on that reading.
0.992.
What does that mean? That means it hasn't done anything. So it's done. Donesy done done.
Okay.
So
Let me move any sharp objects away from Derica.
We can rack.
Yeah, and what we're going to do, we're just going to move this from one vessel to another. We use an auto siphon to do that. And we are doing that to get it off all of the stuff that's in here. The lees, the orange peels, anything that's been left over. A lot of people have been asking, do I have to? Well, no, it's not like the homebrew police are going to come to your house and arrest you if you don't. But if you leave it on this, you just have a chance of maybe the lees affecting things. It takes a long time, months, could happen. And if you disturb it at all, now you just made it all cloudy again. You have to wait days before you can do it. It's just easier to rack it, let it settle out again, rack again, and then bottle. It's a little safer. If you don't have the fermenter space, like another container to put it in, I can understand. But honestly, if you're going to be into this hobby, get a couple of fermenters, get a couple of containers, various sizes. Makes so much sense. They're really not that expensive. Just get a few, and that way you can always have the right size container.
Now, that said, if life got in the way and you forgot about a brew,
there's no real harm.
Even for a year or so,
Yeah.
we've had plenty of viewers who have ran into that situation and had no ill effect to their brew. So please.
Okay. Or we have Adam Franklin, who didn't forget. He just leaves them for like a year to 2 years.
Sure, I was trying to leave Adam out of it. But yeah, Adam, we're talking to you. All right. But nothing bad happens. So please don't go, oh no, I forgot about it, and dump it. No, don't do that.
Yeah, don't. Always test it first, taste it before you dump it.
Make sure it's okay.
Yeah. Now, it's really hard to make homebrew toxic.
If you see mold, then yeah.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead and dump it.
If there's green fuzzy things in there or stuff moving around in there, probably not good. Just saying.
All right. That's enough.
Now we're gonna wrap. All right, so I'm gonna pour our sample into the destination fermenter. So that I don't upset the lees in our primary. Now, before anybody freaks out that I just put my hand on the fermenter. Okay, my hands are so sanitized at this point. They've been in and out of turbos. I do, however, want to save just a little bit at the bottom for a quick taste. That's a little bit more than a quick taste, but it's okay. Because the next step of this really does require us to know what it's going to taste like. It smells orangey.
You're gonna make me taste it, aren't you?
Yeah, fermented orange isn't Erica's favorite thing. And this is dry fermented orange.
Oh, God. Do I really have to taste this?
No, I'll do it.
Be kind. Thank you.
Okay, I get... Oh, wait, here, that needs to be sanitized now. I get an orange fruitiness from it. It's obviously very dry, not done, but it means that our next phase is going to work pretty well, I think, and get us the flavor combo that we're looking for. So, to rack, as always, we're going to use an auto siphon. The end goes in the destination. The source is right here, and this end goes in here. We're keeping the cap on because there's a lot of stuff in the bottom, also called lees, that I don't want sucked up. So I'm going to go halfway down, give it a few pumps to get it going, and then we rack. I try to keep it out of the very bottom. Now, keep in mind, this is the first racking, so it's okay if a little bit of stuff got in there because it's going to fall out again anyway. We're just trying to get rid of the gross lees, as you would. Not saying that they're gross, but that they're gross as in large, as in the majority of. Okay, we racked it. Now, we also racked it to a wide mouth 1 gallon on purpose. Notice how little headspace we have. We talk about headspace often, but I'd like to just not put too fine a point on it. It's good to minimize. However, don't let that stop you from doing something. You don't want it like where your brew's down here and you got all this headspace, because that could oxygenate. Okay, at this point, we are not worried about making vinegar, because let me just do a little math for you. We started at 1.088, okay, minus our final gravity of 0.992. That gives us 0.096 of gravity used up times 135, my coefficient of choice. If you don't know why I use that, we do have videos explaining it. That gives us 12.96. That's 13% to me. So here's the story of acetobacter and vinegar, all right? When oxygen and alcohol are both present, the acetobacters, which is already there, they're in there already, you can't eliminate them, can be activated, okay? Oxygen and alcohol. Those two things are important. So that's where having too much oxygen, too much headroom, and alcohol present can be a problem. That's also why we say don't swirl, don't shake, don't mix after alcohol starts being formed, okay? But acetobacters at about 10% ABV start to have trouble producing vinegar. That's why if you ever notice, if you ever make vinegar, you have to dilute it down to like 5 to 7% alcohol. That's why, because acetobacters have trouble past 10%. By the time you hit about 15% ABV, they can't do it at all. Now, of course, they can't read just like yeast can't read, so give a little bit of leeway there, but that's the rough ideas. There are going to be specific things like, it's not a hard cutoff, but it's close enough. I mean, if you're at 9.5, you're probably pretty close to where they're going to have trouble, but you're not quite there yet. And if you're at 16, obviously, you're probably safe, but you know, that kind of thing. So just something to keep in mind, not the end all be all, but do the best you can. A lot of home brewing is literally just do the best you can. Speaking of doing the best you can, we got some of these. These are Madagascar vanilla beans, and we use them in another brew, and I want to use it in this one because creamsicle literally is just vanilla and orange. Oh, smell that.
Ooh,
That is
dry.
lovely. Now, here's the thing. Last time we used a vanilla bean in something, I think we either let it sit too long or we used too much. So I'm going to play it safe.
Let me sanitize those scissors.
Yes, we're going to play it even safer.
And rip
Sanitize
Brian's
those scissors.
fingers right off.
Yep. She's just going to dip them in sanitizer. I'm just going to use half of a vanilla bean. So if you could take the lid off for me. Before anybody freaks out that I didn't sanitize the vanilla bean, it's going into 13% alcohol. It's probably fine. I mean, if it's not growing stuff in the bag in the cupboard after a few months, it's not going to do anything. It's okay.
But we have introduced a variable to our brew, our alcoholic brew, which is going to increase the extraction rate of the vanilla. The higher the ABV of your brew,
Did it sink?
the quicker, it's right here,
Oh, it did.
the quicker the extraction rate.
Right.
And we also know that vanilla is one of those tricksy hobbitses that can be fine, can be fine, can be fine. That's too much. So we're going to have to keep a sharp, keen eye on this beverage or we may have a problem. If you are in a situation where you have work or travel or something going on with your life that you can't do this and babysit your brew, then an extract, whether a commercially purchased one or one that you made your own, may be a better option.
Or wait till you have like a week where you can check it every 3 or 4 days. You know, that's pretty much what we're going to do. In 3 days or so, I will take a sample of this and we'll just do a quick little tasting. And that's pretty much how you do it. It's all to taste. So we can tell you how long it took for ours, but that doesn't necessarily mean yours will be exactly that number of days. It might be a day less or 2 less. It might be a day or 2 more. So just kind of go with that because every vanilla bean is different, just like every brew is different, just like every environment's different. Just like everybody's palate is different. So, you know, you can't really go by anything. It's all just approximation. Why are we doing this at all? This is just crazy. Totally kidding.
So all you do now is I need to prepare an airlock, place that on here, put our notes on there, and put it back in the fermentation station, and we'll be back next when we taste it to see if it's ready.
Vanilla bean's been in there for a whole week because we're lazy.
We intended to actually check this earlier, and life did its thing.
Oh, yeah.
And by that, I mean it got in the way, and we forgot.
So there's been half a vanilla bean sitting in this for a whole week. Can you put that back on there? So clarity-wise, this is beautiful. I smell a little bit of the vanilla.
I have to cleanse my palate. Pardon me, I should have done this earlier.
All right. I'm going to let her taste it. Trying not to give anything away. Now, if you remember, this was 0.992, which means this is drier than the Sahara Desert in summertime. I don't even know if it's more dry in summer or winter, but it's dry. But the vanilla flavor is coming through, and I think it's enough. The orange flavor is there, and it's enough. This needs sweetness. I know I say that a lot.
Honey!
Yeah, I think honey is the thing to add to this.
Honey.
Because that way we'd have the honey, orange, vanilla mix. I think that's exactly what this needs. So what we need to do is rack this to a pitcher and then move on to the sweetening part of the show.
Here, you can finish it.
Do I have to? I will. Take one for the team. It's very dry. Gave me goosebumps. Okay, we racked it. We have 122 ounces. There's a reason I'm saying that.
So some people have pointed out that when we add an ingredient at this stage that we are diluting the ABV. And they're absolutely 100% positively right in that. But because of our method for back sweetening, we're constantly taking tastes,
right,
samples, which lowers the volume. So it's challenging
becomes very
to
approximated.
go, okay, how much volume was added due to the sweetening versus how much was removed due to the tasting, then how much was added back with the sweetening versus how much was...
Yep.
You
And
see
it
where I'm
gets
going.
difficult. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do an approximation, okay? We're going to keep track of how many tastes we do, and they're usually about an ounce when we do a taste. So we'll try to figure out the best we can. It's still going to be an approximation because the concentration in that 1 ounce will change with each one, but we'll do the best we can.
Before we add, I am not the number person, so I'm going to refer to your expertise because you are the number person.
The eyebrow person, too.
He's the eyebrow person. He is the king of the eyebrow. The people's eyebrow is in this space.
Anyway.
Sorry, Dwayne.
I wish I could do it like he does.
He's the best.
But anyway, what are we doing?
I'm sorry. Okay, math. So we have this volume. We know what our general preferred sweetness number is, right?
Yeah.
And we know...
You want me to do math to figure that out?
I want you to do math. Aww.
No, that's a lot harder to do. I mean, okay. The thing is, this is by pounds, this is by ounces. It's not the same. They're different metrics to try to use. So that's not necessarily...
I was just trying to do like a guesstimate, so that way we wouldn't do a gajillion tastes. We could do a...
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's put it this way. 3 pounds of honey is roughly 32 fluid ounces, or 1 pound of honey is roughly 8 fluid ounces. So if I went up to just past the 128 mark on here, that would be like putting in a pound of honey, which would add 35 points to our 0.992, making this like a 1.020. Is that what you wanted me to do?
See, I told you he could do it.
Okay. I'm not going to go all the way, though. I'm just going to go to the 128. So it'll be a little bit below then, because I'm thinking this might be better in the 1.014 to 1.016 range. So let's go with that. That's an estimate still, because the way things mix together is not always as concrete as we might like it to be, okay? Like, if you melt sugar into water, it doesn't take up as much volume as the sugar took up itself because of the way things combine in chemistry. And I'm not a chemistry expert, so...
Then throw in the other flavor components, and you may want it sweeter because your brain's saying, oh, it's not sweet enough, or you may want it less sweet because your brain might be saying, hey, that's super sweet.
And then there's this is just a graduated pitcher, so did I get exactly that much? Did I not do, there's all that, and it's leaking down the side.
Oh no, I have to eat this honey. I'm so sad.
Now, of course, she's going to now wash her hands in turbos and all that while I mix this up. Okay, first thing I need you to know, because we're adding honey, which is fermentable, to a brew that finished dry, and I don't believe is actually at the... Nope, it's 71B.
Yeah.
This is like 13%, 14% tops. It's not far off of what 71B is rated for, but we've seen it go higher. So I don't trust that, which means we're going to pasteurize. You have to stabilize this in some manner. There are other ways. People ask us all the time. We don't do them. We never have, so I can't really answer those questions. We pasteurize. It's convenient, it's simple, and it's very effective.
I will link in the description below our preferred pasteurization method, so that way if you choose that route, you can do so. We
have a few videos on pasteurization. The latest one talks about using a sous vide immersion circulator to do it, but we've done ones in coolers, we've done ones just on the pot on the stove. That's why all three are still there, but the immersion circulator, by far the most consistent and effective and safe way to do it.
Right. So I'm going to link the full gallon pasteurization method. Yep. But if you want to see our other pasteurization methods on our channel, all you have to do is go to the little magnifying glass icon and search our channel for pasteurization, and you'll see all of our videos on pasteurization.
Yeah. Okay, this looks like it's mixed already. That went together way faster than I expected it to.
I like it when that.
See, it's about 128. Grab a little glass.
Time for a taste.
Let me see how much I poured out. 1 ounce. Okay. It does cloud it up. Now, pasteurization will actually help that clear. And then we let it settle before we bottle, so that's all good. Okay, the orange smells a little more astringent than I really would like it to be. Unfortunately, most creamsicle things, it's more like a fake artificial orange than a real orange, so we are battling that. But here we go. It's not horrible, which leaves a lot of leeway, by the way. It's not great though. Needs more sweetness. What do you think?
Here's the inherent problem.
It's fermented orange.
And this, I don't like creamsicle anything. So
I'm fighting an uphill battle here no matter what I do.
My opinion is pretty much not applicable to this beverage.
Okay, so we did one taste. I'm going to add more honey. And I'm probably going to try to add... See, my scale only goes to 128.
Well, you have to do the other side.
I know. That's more complicated. So I don't know that I need to add quite that much, so I'm just going to add a bunch more.
Okay.
About that much. Maybe that much. Maybe.
Or that much.
That much. Okay, that was probably about another... It was just less than a pound the first time. That was less than half a pound for the second edition. So yeah, we are adding a significant amount. But have you ever had a non-sweet tasting creamsicle anything? By the way, the whole creamsicle idea was actually a suggestion from a viewer. I don't remember who it was. So if you know who it was, speak up now or forever hold your peace. And they suggested using orange juice and vanilla bean. I decided to use orange peel instead because it adds the flavor without the acidity and without the juice because of somebody's aversion to fermented orange. Not blaming her, just saying. So I added about 1.5 pounds. Wait.
We don't do it that way.
That's not how we do it. We look at how much we have, not how much we want to have.
We take a gravity rating. We just do it
I know, but I'm trying to do the thing.
Oh.
We're at 132 minus 1. Because we did one tasting.
Oh, right.
Yeah, see? Because I'm going to recalculate the ABV when we are done.
Oh, goodness.
Okay, so it's probably about as cloudy as it was. Smell a lot more honey now. It's a more floral note. Oh, that's much better. Oh.
Yeah, it is a lot floral.
Mm-hmm.
Which this is a wildflower honey.
Yep. It's actually not bad. I don't think making it sweeter is going to improve it anymore. So I think at this point, it probably just needs some age. So let me do some quick math for you here, because
I feel like the additional honey is giving me that creamy sensation
a little bit
in the mouth.
That's what a creamsicle needs.
Which, yes.
Yep. Vanilla should do that too. I didn't want to overpower with vanilla. We've had issues in the past, on and off camera, with overpowered vanilla products. And I think there's enough vanilla flavor. Or do you want to add some extract?
Nope.
Okay.
I think it's good. There was another ingredient that I know somebody's probably going to want to mention. I don't know if you want to mention it or not.
What's that?
Lactose.
I don't really think it's necessary for this. If you want to use lactose, you can. It's not really a product we use for a variety of reasons. Nothing dangerous. If you choose to use it, it's perfectly fine. It's a personal choice that we don't use lactose because of where it comes from. That's all. But you can if you want to. It is a sweetener. It is a non-fermentable sweetener, so it sometimes can add some creaminess. You need a lot of it, though. I mean, we're talking in the order of half a pound or more in order to really get that creamy feel.
But that is something that may be applicable to this particular recipe to get that flavor profile.
Absolutely. But we ended up with 132 minus 1 ounces. Now, let me do some math for you, okay? And I'm not going to make the joke about...
Do you need this out so you can confirm?
No, I already took my
measurement.
measurement.
You already did it. Okay.
I'm not going to make the joke about teachers and calculators because somebody got a little bit offended by that.
Didn't play it out.
No, I still think it's funny.
He will always think it's funny.
It was just a joke. But anyway, so here's the deal. We had 122 ounces of 13% mead. We took 2 tastings, actually. We took 2 tastings of this. So that means we were at 132 ounces with the honey added, right? Again, this is still going to be a little bit on the rough side because that 1 ounce difference. So kind of like the way we do fortification, except that this is reverse fortifying, okay? We're actually defortifying this. The ABV is going down. So if we had 122 parts at 13%, that's 122 times 13, that's 1586. And then we just want to divide that by the total of 132. Divided by 132 gives us 12.01, so 12%.
So that wouldn't be 130 because of the -2?
No, because I need to go off of what we actually had, not what we have
right,
now.
because we add those.
Right, those 2 tasters were included in the total.
Gotcha.
Technically, one of them was and the other one wasn't, but it gets weird. So I just went with both. Don't worry about it. If you overthink this, you're going to make it far too complicated.
You'll start bleeding from the eyes.
But
it's very unpleasant.
But just to give you an idea, 122 times 13. Let's say we only took out, we didn't use those, right? Just to give you an idea, and I divide this by 130, now we're at 12.2%. If 0.2% really makes that much of a difference to you, I have news for you. Homebrew probably is going to be a disappointment because you cannot be that exact all the time.
Your variances on your gravity readings are going to be beyond that.
0.2 points of ABV is like nothing to worry about. So I'm going to go with 12. I usually round off to a whole number anyway, so I'm going to go with 12. So it did drop it from 13 to 12.
Speaking of gravity readings, do we want to take a gravity reading?
We do want to take a gravity reading.
Okay.
Here's the gist of what we just did. It was a lot of math and a lot of numbers thrown out there with a lot of estimation. And here's why. Anytime you're going to take samples out of it, you're changing the concentration. But we saw that even those 2 samples might have changed it by up to 0.2%. That's not enough to even be concerned with, in my opinion. To some people, that might be huge. However, to even commercial winemakers, it's nothing. They can usually be either 1 to 2% off in either direction
by law.
By law. So homebrewers, 0.2%, I wouldn't worry about it. But anyway, what we wanted to do is get an idea of what we raised the gravity to on this, and we raised it to 1.028.
So we added wildflower honey to that gravity. Thank you.
Okay, so here's the gist of what I was getting at is we lowered it by 1 percentage point. So it went from 13 to 12. Most people can't even tell the difference in flavor there, but they could tell the difference in the sweetness. It took a lot of honey to do that. Okay, it was a significant amount of honey to raise that from 0.992 to 1.028. It is well over a pound of honey in a gallon to get it there. So typical back sweetening, when you're just putting in a little bit, it's not going to matter. If you really want to do the measurement, do exactly like we did. Measure the before and the after volumes, and then figure out your backwards fortification. So what are we going to do with this now?
We're gonna rack it to a 1-gallon fermenter and then pasteurize it.
And then we're gonna leave it sitting for probably a week, maybe 2, let it all settle out and mellow, and then we'll be back to give you its tasting. Time for a tasting.
So yeah, he's been doing that the whole time I was getting stuff ready, so
yeah,
good times.
So I just had to do it on camera. All right, this has been sitting for like another week or so, maybe a little bit more, and we're just gonna, take a taste of it, see how it did. Right off the bat, it is not clear. That, while it doesn't really affect the flavor, it still, kind of gets you. It makes you think like, oh, something went wrong.
Well, it's a creamsicle, so...
Yeah, but there wasn't much in this. Mandarin orange peels, I mean, really. Here's your sample. So, color, I don't know, it's an okay color. I wouldn't call it great. The clarity makes this not so pretty to look at. I will say that right off the bat. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just makes it not as pretty to look at, which to many people is a very important thing. What?
I can't say.
It definitely, it resembles something. I'm trying to be very kind and polite.
That's why I'm just laughing.
Mm-hmm. On the smell, though, it doesn't smell like the thing it resembles.
No, it does not, but it doesn't smell like something I want to drink.
No, it's got a pretty strong orange. It's got a pretty strong orange smell. The astringent, bitter orange smell, which is odd because Mandarin tends to not do that. But the idea behind a creamsicle is an orange and vanilla mix. And we thought with the honey, well, I thought this was my idea. And, we just, every once in a while, it's an experiment kind of thing.
His side, your side, my side.
Yeah, she doesn't really like orange fermented much. So, if you've watched our videos, you know that already.
I don't even like the creamsicle candies, so...
Yeah, on the smell, it's very orange. I'm not getting as much vanilla. So, time to go in for a taste. The taste is much better than the smell.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. It actually tastes like a creamsicle. It's got a nice, sweeter orange flavor with the honey and the vanilla coming through just right. It's actually not bad.
Yeah.
I was like,
the
smell is not good.
I think the sweetness coming in first when you take a sip really helped me get over that smell.
Mm-hmm.
Now, please don't take this wrong. It doesn't smell bad. It doesn't smell wrong.
It smells like a bitter orange.
It just smells like a bitter orange, and that's not my thing. So
Yeah.
I'm not like, I want to drink this. I'm like, no, I don't want to drink this. And then I drank it, and I'm like, oh, it's nice and sweet. And it reminds me of orange blossom honey. Like if I just took a scoop of orange blossom honey.
With a hint of vanilla in there.
And that does not make me sad. So
it's sweetened to 1.028, so it's actually quite sweet. I would call this in the dessert mead category, something to have after food, but it's actually quite enjoyable. But this is one of those times where the smell and the taste are so disparate. Now, it could be a timing thing. This was started April 30th, 2023. Today is July 7th, 2023. So we're looking like, it's not even 2 months. It's like 6 weeks, 5 weeks. Yeah, this is not old at all. Many people would say that it's far too young to taste. I don't think it's too young to taste. It's too young to give a true and complete assessment. That's why we do a 1-year tasting. That 1-year tasting is really the tasting. That's really the finished product. That puts them all on the same level. Because if we finish one brew in 3 weeks, another one in 6 weeks, another one in 2 months, we still taste them all when they're a year old in the bottle. That gives them an even playing field.
So we're going to rack this and then bottle it. I'm going to link both full videos on the racking and the bottling in the description below. So that way, if you want to see that process in detail, you can.
But we are still going to give our dual
right
scoring.
now, we're going to go ahead and do our first assessment scoring the two score style that we've initiated now.
Dual score.
Or
something. That was not the right way to do that.
No, that's okay.
Bring your glass. Bring your glass over. Bring your glass over. Just here, have a little bit more. Make me feel better. There you go. That's all you need. Just a little bit.
All right. So our first score is going to be our technique assessment.
Yep. How well did this perform based off of what it was intended to do? So
Brian had preconceived notions of what he wanted. I was just along for the ride, to be honest, because I was just like, okay.
You know, and here, I can go over some of our notes. This will help with this. This is 2.5 pounds of honey, water, Mandarin orange peels, Lavin 71B, some ferment oat. It started at 1.088 and it went to 992 right away.
Boom.
Clean fermentation. We did not detect any off flavors or smells or anything that shouldn't be. There was, it was a pretty clean flocculation out, everything like that. We removed the peels, we racked, we added half a vanilla bean, let that sit for a little while, and then we back sweetened with honey. This was pretty cut and dry, pretty simple. As far as the way it worked, that's what this score represents. Did it do what it was intended to do? Were there any difficulties along the way? Was there anything that might make you go, I might have done that differently. I might have tried a different method of getting that in there or whatever. That's what this one's all about. 1, 2, 3, 8.
All right. So the reason being is even though it tastes way better than what I was anticipating the smell would, there are some things that happened here. First of all, it's not clear.
Mm-hmm.
And so Brian wanted it to clear. I really don't care if it's clear or not. The reason why I knocked down for the clarity is because I don't know why it's not clear.
Right.
That is the little thing in my head that's like,
there's pectin in oranges.
But
we only used orange peels. But we used the peels of 4 oranges.
All right, fair enough.
I mean, that could be.
There may have been some stuff because we used an actual vanilla bean rather than vanilla extract. But because we did back sweeten with honey and a rather significant amount of honey, I assume we pasteurized this.
Yeah, we did.
And I can see that there's some goop in the bottom, but it hasn't compacted. It hasn't really flocculated out. So normally when we pasteurize and let it sit, which we did in this instance, it clears out really well.
Yeah.
So it didn't do that.
So it's 2 times it didn't clear. It didn't clear the first time on its own, and it didn't clear with pasteurization.
So that's a little odd to me.
That's where I got the 8.
And then the second thing is I'm not really getting the vanilla flavor that Brian says he's getting.
I get it in a creaminess, kind of. It's not like a pronounced vanilla, but it is definitely a creaminess.
I am getting the creamy sensation because I'm getting that sweet note right up front, and I know that we added a good amount of honey to this. I'm attributing that to the honey rather than the vanilla.
That's fair. That's fair. If you're getting more of the honey flavor than the vanilla flavor, then I can totally see that.
And that's just, you know...
It's kind of a combo for me.
Brains, they do things.
Yeah, I'm not taking away on method for that. But, yeah, we both arrived at the same score, just for different reasons.
But as far as ease of fermentation, this just went boop. It just did its thing. It was perfect. It was lovely.
Cut and dry fermentation.
Gotta love that.
By the book. Yes, I do love that. Okay.
So now we're on to personal
Which means I need a little bit more again. Do you need more?
Mm-mm.
Then I will only suck up some. Don't do what I just did. Do a better way. Use both hands. I don't know. Something. All right. See, now I'm getting more vanilla on the smell. Smell that. For some reason, I wasn't before at all. I think the more you taste it, the more you can kind of imagine those things coming through. Definitely more vanilla on the smell now. Like it almost smelled like a candle shop for a half a second.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I do get that. So this is a 13%.
It's actually 12% because when we diluted it, it lost a little bit to volume, so it's 12%.
Okay.
Okay. The next score that we give is personal enjoyment. How much do you like it? If you knew nothing about it, nothing about the way it was made, just here, try this. What do you think of it? Give me a scale of 1 to 10. Takes a little thought for this one, though. Okay. I have a score. Are you ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 6.5. It's not Derica's thing.
It's not my thing.
I knew that going into it.
The sweetness that I get on the flavor is what saves it for me, honestly.
Yep.
If it didn't have that sweetness, the smell alone gives me serious pause. And then if I just got full-on fermented orange flavor, I'd be like, nope, nope, nope.
For me, it's not exactly the flavor combo that I wanted. It's a little different. I think a different style of orange might have done it for me. The Mandarin I thought was going to be sweet enough, but it's actually not. I might need a mixture with something else to give it that sweeter orange flavor. Like, think St. Joseph's Baby Aspirin. That's the kind of thing I'm thinking of. The creamsicle, you know, or, I mean, if you've ever gotten the creamsicle ice cream from the ice cream truck, it has a certain sweet orange flavor that this doesn't have. This is a little more of a bitter orange flavor. Didn't quite get to where I wanted it to be. The vanilla is working well with it. We did mention using lactose if you want to help with the creaminess. We don't prefer to use it, but you certainly can. There's nothing wrong with it or anything like that. We just don't prefer to use that product.
I'm wondering, to get the orange that you're looking for, if an orange extract, like maybe even an artificial orange extract.
It probably would get closer, but that's not the way I'd like to do it.
Right. But
that gives me an even more reason to go a little lower on the score, because it can't really be achieved without using artificial means. Yeah. So, you know, I think I was 6.5, which, you know, for something that I was expecting to really like, a little bit of a disappointment. Now, somebody out there is going to say, you guys are nuts. This is an 11. Because it's actually quite nice tasting.
Yeah.
It just doesn't fit either of our palates really all that well.
I was bouncing around, and my initial thought was to give it a 6, to be honest.
I was thinking 7.
The sweetness is lovely. But if I really think about it, and I know this is on the shelf, would I go, hey, let's get some of that? No.
That's why I went as low as I did. Because a 7 to me is still like, oh yeah, that's pretty decent. I would probably drink that. 6.5 is just on the verge of, I might not.
But we're still gonna bottle it. We're still gonna rack it and then bottle it, and we're still gonna save it for a year, because I think possibly
there's a couple of rough edges that just might mellow with time. So,
Yep.
and that's where the 1 year tasting is the important thing. And we do this just to give you an idea of where it's going, to see if it's something you even want to bother making, to let it sit for a year. But
so don't count this out yet.
Oh, yeah.
If you're thinking about it, we'll see you in a year and we'll review it again.
as always, guys, thanks so much for watching and have a great day.
Bye-bye.